It's incredible how when writing an email down, you can actually kill the call through writing it down in the wrong way. Hi guys, my name's Deepak Shukla, founder at Pearl Lemon Sales. We're a sales training and development agency based in the UK as well as the USA and serving clients worldwide. And here today in day 17 of 119 days of cold calling training, we're going to go through how to write the email down approach. Yep, it really is an approach because I see so many people screw this up. But before we get into it, feel free to click the link below to get an additional 17 strategies not shared in this training. So fundamentally, in the last training, we spoke about accepting the email, okay? And at some point during a phone call, you're actually going to be writing down an email or fundamentally relaying back the email that you've got. But there will be a discussion around that in practically not every call that you have, but many of the calls that you had. I'd like to think that in terms of your actual calls where there's more than 10 seconds of talk time, that 50% of them will involve you taking an email down. Whether or not you use that email is entirely separate, but there are nuances to how you take an email down that are super important, okay? And I want to talk about a couple of elements that are critical when it comes to this phase of the actual call. So, what are those critical elements? Number one, people like to be reassured that you're writing an email down correctly because typically it's their name that you're using. So when you're using their name, treat it with love and care. So if someone says to you, yeah, sure, if you send me an email to, do you want to send me an email? Yeah, brilliant. So what's your email? Yeah, so it's richard.faulkner. Okay. Do you see what just happened there? So let's imagine that let's say it's me, Deepak, you're calling me, and I say, yeah, Frank, listen, why don't you send me an email? Frank says, sure thing, Deepak. What's a good email for you? And I say, sure, it's deepak.shukla at, and he says, okay. Now, the problem there is number one, I don't know what his okay means. Has he written down my email? Has he spelt it correctly? If he's not asked for the actual word for word letters, how do I know that he's written it down correctly? He's creating in the mind of the prospect, to me, a little bit of doubt. Furthermore, the second point is it's my name. I want to know that he's, repeating it back to me because as per the words of Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People, everyone loves the sound of their own name, especially even furthermore if you, well, like Deepak, okay, so that's Deepak, right? Deepak. That sounds so much more satisfying orally than someone just saying, yep, got it. Do you see the difference? Where if someone says, okay, so that's Deepak, Deepak, cool name by the way. Do you see the difference between that versus okay, Deepak, got it? Do you see the definite difference between the two and what an impact that can make? So there are this is a key thing that I do see people get wrong. And even if you've got their email written down, still fundamentally ask for clarity, especially where it's a name that is likely for some people to have been misspelt. Because if you're calling myself Deepak Shukla, then even if someone says, "Look, I think I've got an email for you, but can I just, I think I've got your email, so no problem." If you say that, it's also quite likely that you may have written the email down wrong, or it might also be the case, for example, that if you're calling me and you say to me, yeah, Deepak, I've got your email, I'll say, okay, but in my head, and this is the truth, I'm thinking, the amount of people that think they've got my email but spell it wrong because my name's not spelt with a CK but just a K. So I'm sipping some water. So with that in mind, yeah, it's the challenge here is that this part of the call is treated quite transactionally in that, okay, let's just get this done and let's move on to the next bit. Every element of the call should be treated with love, care, and respect, because this element of the call, when it's the dealings of writing down someone's name, is actually super important. So whenever you have the opportunity, every time this comes up, which should be basically on every successful call. So therefore, in 100% of your calls, when you look to be taking someone's email down, where you need to spell it. If it's a very obvious name, still spell it. So if it's, my name's George Williams, you'd be like, brilliant. So George, I think I've got your email. I've got George.Williams. Let me just spell it for you to double check, just in case there's nothing. I've not made a mistake. George dot Williams, Williams. So you'd be like, yep, of course, that's fine. So in the instance where someone has got a quite common name, then you do have some leeway to fundamentally assume that you don't need to spell out the name, okay? Even in those instances, you still want to, at the very least, say their name, okay? Say their name, but you don't necessarily need to spell their name. If their name is unusual in any way, then you'd ideally like to spell their name as well as say their name. But in any instance, you don't want to just say, I've got it, without saying or spelling their name within the email, even if it's a office at, a mail at, a support at. When it's a support at or an office at or an info at, then you don't need to spell it, okay? And that's where the nuance comes in, that when it comes to a generic address, the grade or the difference is different because it's not attached to someone's name. And typically speaking, on the successful calls, you're taking down decision makers' emails, especially if you're talking to someone and they're giving you someone else's email. You have to make sure you just get into the habit of saying or spelling, but never just saying, I've got it, because you don't know that you've got it. They don't know that you've got it. There's a 1 in 4 chance you haven't got it, and then you look like you've not got it when you call them back. But also, anytime that you don't say it or spell it, you open up the room to create a little bit of potential annoyance, doubt, lack of care, negligence in the mind of the prospect, okay? And that's a really, really important thing. And also, of course, if it's a cool name or unusual name or anything that's quirky, there's an opportunity to leave or drop a compliment, which we'll go on to talk about in a separate training. But please, when you're writing down emails, don't butcher this part, and please don't just basically ignore writing down the email.
Remember, we've got 17 gated strategies just waiting for you. All you need to do is subscribe, as well as click the link in the description below to get access to those 17. Get some.